الرحمن الرحيم اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم صدق الله العظيم.
حنیف سر
انمیوٹ کر لو اپنا خطیب صاحب. میوٹ ہے, انمیوٹ کر لو.
اوکے اوکے اوکے.
Which is being conducted by OMIAT in collaboration with
participants, please mute yourselves. Can't hear you, Hanif bhai.
انمیوٹ کر لو خطیب صاحب.
yes yeah أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Respected brothers and sisters, I'm very happy to participate in this webinar being conducted by OMIAT with the support of AMP, Association of Muslim Professionals, UP and AP and Tamil Nadu. See, OMIAT is an organization functioning in Tamil Nadu, in which more than 500 schools run by Muslims are the members. MashaAllah, this association has been serving the community, particularly Muslim community, as well as Muslim students, Muslim teachers working in the schools, for improving the quality of education, by which our students should get excellent education. In this connection, we are associated with various organizations to use their knowledge and skills to impart all this kind of knowledge to our students. Alhamdulillah, we have conducted many workshops for the teachers, physical workshops, and hundreds of teachers have been benefited. Also, we used to coordinate with government officials on various issues. Now, alhamdulillah, due to this COVID-19 and because of this ban on the physical meetings, now we used to conduct a lot of virtual meetings. And now we have arranged almost I think more than almost 10 seminars on each day, starting from today, and various speakers on various subjects are going to talk on improving the quality of our teachers. So I congratulate all our trustees, particularly our Joint Secretary Hanif Khatib, Joint Secretary Madam Nika Akhtar, as well as our Joint Secretary Dr. Nazir Ahmed, and also other secretaries and trustees who are taking so much of efforts to conduct this workshop. I wish this workshop will be a successful one and it will be beneficial to all our member schools. We also assure you that this kind of programs will be conducted in future also. I wish this function a grand success. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you very much, General Secretary Sahib. Now I would request Dr. Peshman Nazir Ahmad Sahib, who is the Joint Secretary of OMIAT and he is also the head of Association of Muslim Professionals of Tamil Nadu. So over to Dr. Peshman Nazir Sahib.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Nahmadu wa nusalli ala Rasulil Kareem. Amma ba'd. Respected President of this webinar, Janab Ahmad Miran Sahib, our General Secretary, UMIAT, Organization of Muslim Educational Institutions and Associations of Tamil Nadu, Joint Secretaries of UMIAT, Janab Hanif Khatib Sahib, Janab Nigar Akhtar Madam Sahiba, our academic coordinator, Professor Nasir Sahib, office bearers and executive members of UMIAT, and our Janab Asadullah Khan Sahib from Bhopal, our central team AMP, our zonal head Mr. Sajjad Bhai Sahib, our UP State AMP head Janaba Shamim Islam Sahiba, UP State Secretary Janab Professor Shahnawaz Khan Sahib, Tamil Nadu AMP State Secretary Janaba Amina Sahiba, office bearers of AMP, school managements, teachers from all parts of the country and others. On behalf of UMIAT, I welcome you all for this grand webinar with the bottom of my heart, and it is a pleasure to know that teachers from different parts of the country are participating in this grand 13 days program beginning from today to till 13th September. MashaAllah, teachers from UP, Lucknow, Kanpur, Delhi, Meerut, Telangana state and from the different parts of the country, they were eagerly participating in it. I welcome you all, my dear teachers. This webinar is being conducted by UMIAT, Organization of Muslim Education Institutions of Tamil Nadu, and in collaboration with the joint efforts of our Association of Muslim Professionals of Uttar Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. Really, during this pandemic period, millions of children have been thrown out of schools. Still there is uncertainty. The old order is changed. And now we are having opportunities and challenges. Now, my dear teachers, you have got a greater responsibility to shoulder upon you to guide the destiny of our children. MashaAllah, in this connection, during these 13 days on different topics, eminent speakers, please unmute your microphones. During these 13 days on different topics of eminent speakers, Inshallah, we'll be addressing the participants. The topics have been finalized by the great educationists and scholars of Uttar Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, particularly the efforts taken by the Uttar Pradesh UP State Head AMP Shamim Islam Sahiba and Professor Shahnawaz Khan Sahib and the central team leaders from Masullah Khan, Abdul Razak, and our national president AMP Janab Idris Sahib. MashaAllah, it is highly commendable. In the end, the course will be evaluated and statistics will be awarded, inshallah. Regarding the course details and the essentials of the course, our Joint Secretary Nigar Madam will be explaining it. And regarding necessity for this course will be explained by our course coordinator, Janab Professor Nasir Sahib. Really, MashaAllah, this course will benefit to you in every respect. I request the teachers to kindly make use of it on Mondays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays up to 13th September from 3 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. Inshallah. A total of 13 days beginning from today. Really, I assure you that the topics have been arranged in such a manner that it will be helpful to you in the classroom situation, school premises, and every walk of the student's life as well as the teacher's life. MashaAllah, I wish this program every success, hoping that it will be beneficial to one and all. In conclusion, let me welcome you once again with the bottom of our heart. Welcome you, my dear teachers. Welcome you, all the participants. Welcome you. Thanking you. Jazakallah khair. Over to Khatib Hanif Sahib.
Jazakallah Peshman Nazir Ahmed Sahib for your welcome address. Now I request Madam Nigar Akhtar, Joint Secretary OMIAT, to present essentials of 13 days course and also to introduce today's resource person. Over to Madam Nigar Akhtar.
Thank you, sir. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Members of the OMIAT Executive Committee, members of AMP, all participants, and resource person. This is a wonderful. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. It's a wonderful opportunity for all of us, especially when there is so much of explosion of knowledge, and the teachers have to be equipped fully to cater to the younger generation. So the learnings are daily, the methods of learning are daily changing. It is a very dynamic matter. So we have to equip ourselves fully. I really sometimes feel sorry for the teachers, how much of knowledge they will be taking in. But then see the enthusiasm. So many people want to update themselves, like the burning candle which can light the others. So we have selected all the modern methodologies, and to start with, we are having this know your child. Before you teach the child, you must know the child. So we are starting with the behavioral and cognitive and behavioral development of the child, and then we slowly build on to the other aspects, teaching of English and new methodology for reading and things like that. You know, we have actually I think the fourth lecture is there is a small printing mistake. It is online resources. It is just written as resources. It is only online resources and information technology to be used in the online teaching classes. So there will be a lot of information coming your way, and I want all of you to listen carefully and take notes, and then at the end of the program, you will have a questionnaire. You will have to answer that, and then practice it in your classes. Not just listen, but put it to practice, and we will inshallah build a great nation with a knowledge, with a nation of knowledge. So I hope we will benefit from, all of us will benefit from these lectures. And for today's lecture, the resource person is Dr. Neha Rumaisa. She's a consultant in ARC Hospital, and she's going to join Chettinad Hospital as a senior resident. She has completed her MBBS in Vellore Medical College, and she did her MD Psychiatry in Chettinad College, Kelambakam, and she is a mother of two, and she is a very dedicated learner, and we hope she will give her knowledge to the teachers, and she is also open to questions, and I wish her all the best. Thank you, sir. Nazir sir, Khatib sir, yeah.
He is not in line.
Nazir sir, you are talking, or we'll have...
I started.
Yes, yes, yes.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good afternoon to one and all. Alhamdulillah, it's a very happy occasion. Many teachers joined in large number for this series of webinar. Alhamdulillah, congratulations to all the joint secretaries, Dr. Nigar Akhtar, Dr. Peshman Nazir, and Khatib Hanif Sahib. They have taken the keen efforts, devoted a lot of time working for a over a few weeks to organize this program. May Allah accept from them. Alhamdulillah. Very important thing is to the teachers, the training is very important. Yeah, lot of difference between the trained teacher and untrained teacher. And as we know, the education, we need to teach the content, what to teach. We have to adopt the right methodology, and as well as we have to evaluate. See, nowadays in the methodology, we need to improve a lot. The way we are teaching, the way conventionally we are teaching may not suit all the children. So according to the children, we need to change our way we are teaching. That's very, very essential. I would like to give one example. The great mathematician, Ramanujan, was termed as failure in the 5th standard. The great scientist, Einstein, also he was sent out of the school at the primary level. When the Einstein was put in another school where the activity-based method was following, he was termed as a very talented student. So it's all how we understand the children, how we adopt our methodology to suit the children. So we need to improve a lot in the way we are teaching the methodology. We will be able to improve only when we attend the program of this kind, not for the sake of formality, with full interest, with full focus, taking the maximum advantage. Inshallah, I hope this series of webinar will benefit all the participants you are attending. You will be able to implement and what you learn from here. One more thing, I would like to make a very, very important announcement. This program, Alhamdulillah, we are conducting it freely. We are not charged anything. But we are actually, you need to cooperate with us for the conduct of the program. We have certain regulations. That is, at the end of each session, you will be evaluated. And the 13 sessions, you will be evaluated. Those who are attending the Google quiz, at the end of each session, only those participants will be given the certificate. That is a regulation we have laid. So the program is getting over. The moment program is over, we will share the link for Google quiz. Only 10 multiple choice questions. You will not take more than 10 minutes to complete it. Before getting away from the seat as you are attending the program, in another 10 minutes, you have to submit the question. The moment the program is over, we end the session. Another 15 minutes, you have to submit the Google form, the questionnaire which comes in Google form. We will close by 15 minutes. The submission time will be strictly closed. And you kindly cooperate with us. One more thing, we will be sending you another link to give the feedback. So kindly, there are 10 points on which you have to give your feedback. We hope all of you will cooperate. So based on those who are submitting the questionnaire, the evaluation form, and the feedback, we will be giving we are recording the attendance and we will give the certificate also. With this, I am concluding my speech. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Nasir Saab. Really, it is a wonderful information. MashaAllah, it will be definitely benefit to our teachers. Now I request Janab Asadullah Khan Sahib, a central team, our coordinator from AMP, to hand over the mic to him.
Jazakallah khair, Nazir Sahab. Jazakallah. I would like to discuss few points, not discuss actually, present few points regarding Association of Muslim Professionals in front of all of you. in collaboration with whom this program has been arranged. So Alhamdulillah, very good initiative. I would like to share my screen for presenting some facts and figures. So for 4 or 5 minutes till the time next speaker comes in. So let me share my screen, but I think I'm not able to. So is it possible by the administrator to allow me to share the screen?
Fazal, make Sir co-host. Fazal, listening?
Shared, go, he,
No? Okay, yes, now I am. Okay. Okay, Alhamdulillah. Okay, so let me minimize. Okay, so AMP stands for Association of Muslim Professionals, which is actually a registered society under the Societies Act. And this is our registration number, and NGO has been registered in Mumbai in year 2011. However, it has been working in this field since 2007. And AMP is a platform for all the Muslim professionals and willing volunteers to share their knowledge, intellect, experience, and skills for the overall development of the Muslim community. So actually, we are a group of individuals and a group of Muslim professionals, I would say, and all of us are actually have actually collaborated to share our skills, our time, and our knowledge with the rest of the people. To bring them on the same level, basically. So this is a non-sectarian organization. Like if you want to be a member of AMP, you just have to be a Muslim. That's it. Whatever sect you belong, whatever ideology you follow, doesn't matter. And we are not in any way associated with any political or religious outfit. And we promote social welfare, community spirit, and knowledge in our society. The organization mainly works in two fields, and that is education and jobs for the underprivileged community section. And our programs are not restricted or limited only to the Muslims. Anybody can take benefit of it. So the programs are open to all. However, we have a special concentration on the Muslim students and Muslim parents, basically. Now, if I talk to you about some facts and figures of AMP, so like this was our Zakat fund disbursement in last 8 years, since 2013 to 20. So if you see, we have around 3.5 crores disbursed till now in all these 7 years, in which 1.5 crores have been disbursed for higher education scholarship to 1364 students, and around 1.25 crores for self-employment support. Orphans basic education, we have distributed somewhere around 56 lakhs, and 16 lakhs to 10 IIT students, and 16 lakhs to other causes. So this is one of the activity which is the collective zakat distribution. We collect zakat from different members and people, whoever wants to donate, and then we utilize it as a collective fund for the betterment of Ummah. This was one of the projects. And if I talk about some other achievements, so we work at school and college level in school development programs. At college level, we have our employment assistance cell, and we have scholarship and self-employment guidance also, AMP Resource Center, and awards and partnership. So if I talk about the first two heads only, which are most relevant, for this program, this particular program. So on school level, we have developed till now more than around 3,000 skill development lectures we have delivered, 800 plus schools connected, 2.75 lakh students benefited, and 100 plus teachers training and parenting workshops. And with today's initiative, I think this figure is going to get high, much high. So that's really commendable. Thanks a lot. And on employment assistance cell, our employment assistance cell works on for the college students and graduates, undergraduates, postgraduates. So we arrange job drives and job fairs across India. Since the pandemic, we are doing it virtually. Virtual job fair we have hosted on 15th of August, and in different parts of the country we are hosting different workshops, employability training programs, and job fairs. So around 350 job fairs and job drives we have conducted till now. 20,000 plus candidates have been employed. 200 plus employability training programs, and 15,000 plus degree students have been benefited till now. So this is just a snapshot of some of the achievements of AMP in last 7-8 years. And with the help of similar organizations like Ummiyat and various other organizations which are connecting with us, we hope to have a much more impact on the community and society and nation at all. So that was a brief about AMP. Thanks a lot for including this section into today's program. Thank you.
Thank you, Janab Asadullah Khan Saab. Really, it is a wonderful thing that you have presented. First time, most of us are coming to know about the AMP. It will benefit to all. You are taking a lot of efforts in the field of education as well as in the higher education, and disbursing Zakat fund and disbursing scholarships to needy children and everything, orphans, everything. Really, mashallah, Allah may reward you suitably in all these actions. Now I request Shaheen Islam Madam from UP, the state head of UP Uttar Pradesh, to kindly address the audience. Now over to Shaheen Islam Madam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
अल्लामा इकबाल कह गए हैं कि इल्म की जुस्तजू जिस रंग में भी की जाए इबादत ही की एक शक्ल है. AMP तमिलनाडु स्टेट हेड डॉक्टर पेश इमाम नजीर अहमद साहब, Organization of Muslim Educational Institutions and Associations of Tamil Nadu के प्रेसिडेंट जनाब मोहम्मद खलीलुल्लाह साहब और जनरल सेक्रेटरी जनाब अहमद मीरान साहब और वो तमाम कारकुन जो इसकी तश्कील में शामिल हैं, यकीनन मुबारकबाद के मुस्तहिक हैं कि उन्होंने टीचर्स और स्कूल मैनेजमेंट के लिए ये स्कूल एक्सीलेंस प्रोग्राम मुनक़िद किया और उत्तर प्रदेश को इसमें शमूलियत के लिए दावत दी. जज़ाकल्लाह खैर. साथ ही आज के सारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स भी मुबारकबाद के हकदार हैं क्योंकि उन्होंने इस प्रोग्राम की ज़रूरत और अहमियत को समझा और अपनी मसरूफियात में से इस इम्पोर्टेंट लर्निंग एक्सपीरियंस के लिए वक्त निकालना भी ज़रूरी समझा. अभी अभी निगार अतर साहिबा ने एक बात कही. Rightfully she said that in today's dynamic education scene, a teacher has to be like a burning candle who can spread her light to others. बेशक ये हमारे स्टेट की टीचर्स और स्कूल्स के इंतजामिया के लिए एक बेशकीमती सुनहरा मौका है कि वो उस लाइटेड कैंडल की मानंद बनने की कोशिश करें ताकि उनकी रोशनी दूर तक फैल सके इंशाअल्लाह. एल्बर्ट आइंस्टाइन ने एक बात कही थी, तालीम हक़ाइक़ को सीखने का नाम नहीं है बल्कि ये दिमाग को सोचने के काबिल बनाने के लिए एक तरतीब का नाम है. That is, education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. पूरा मुझे यकीन है आज के इस प्रोग्राम में शरीक होने वाला हर एक फर्द इस इल्म से खुद भी फैज़याब होगा और दूसरों को भी फैज़ पहुंचाने का जरिया बनेगा इंशाअल्लाह. And most importantly, they will learn to train their mind to think. आखिर में अल्लाह सुब्हाना ताला से उम्मीद और दुआ है कि वो ये काविश हम सब के नेक अमालों में दर्ज कर दें और हम सबको इससे मुस्तफीद होने का मौका फराहम करें. जज़ाकल्लाह खैर. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया.
जज़ाकल्लाह मैडम, माशाअल्लाह आपने बहुत अच्छी बातें बताई. पहली मर्तबा ज़माने दराज के बाद हमको यूपी उर्दू सुनने का मौका हुआ. माशाअल्लाह आपकी उर्दू ज़बान हमारे लिए बहुत बड़ी एक रश्क के काबिल है. इंशाअल्लाह आपके जो बताए तरीक़े हैं इंशाअल्लाह बहुत मुफीद साबित होंगे हमारे लिए. जज़ाकल्लाहुल खैर. नाउ आई रिक्वेस्ट जनाब शहनवाज साहब, the State Secretary of AMP from Uttar Pradesh to kindly address the audience regarding the vote of thanks connection. Meanwhile, I request Nigar Madam to introduce the today's person.
Yeah, I have introduced already, sir. Yeah,
Okay,
she is
sir.
ready with her lecture. It's getting late.
After
Shall
vote
we
of thanks
start?
letter, after vote of thanks letter is
Yeah,
start.
she,
Oh, okay. Now we will go to the vote of thanks.
yes.
I request
No, sir, vote of thanks can be done in the end,
Lord's
after
last.
the lecture.
All right, okay. Now,
बड़ी वाली में बहुत तक झंझट रहा, फिर वो हुआ, फिर उसके बाद छोटी वाली में क्या मामला?
नहीं, बात करो तुम। हाँ, शुरू करो। Peshman sir, can we start the lecture?
Yes, proceed.
Yeah.
We are waiting.
Okay. शुरू करो ना। बिस्मिल्लाह।
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. So, Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon.
Others, please mute yourselves. Other than the speaker. Thank you.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon to everyone. Vanakkam, Namaskaram and Namaste to my fellow participants. I am Dr. Neha Rumeza, psychiatrist by profession. So before I begin my webinar for today, I would like to thank OMIAT and AMP for giving me this opportunity for today's presentation. The topic for today's presentation is on cognitive and behavioral development. So today's topic is on cognitive and behavioral development. Yeah, so to begin with, the early years of a child's life is very important for his health and development. So healthy development means that children of all abilities, including those with special healthcare needs, they're able to grow up where their social, emotional, and educational needs are met. So having a safe and loving home and spending time with family, engaging them like playing, singing, reading, and talking are all very important. So proper nutrition, exercise, and sleep also can make a difference. So for a good development, for growth and development of a child, it's a multi-dimensional approach. Everything plays an important role for the growth of the child. So I'll be talking on cognitive development first. It refers to a progressive. Can you please mute others? Yeah, thank you. It refers to the progressive and continuous growth of perception, memory, imagination, conception, judgment, and it is an intellectual counterpart of one's biological adaptation to the environment. So it involves the mental activities. So the information which we get, we comprehend the information, and also it involves the process of acquiring, organizing, remembering, and using it. This knowledge, which undergoes all this process, is subsequently used for problem solving and generalization to novel situations. So to promote a child's cognitive development, it is important we, as parents or teachers, we engage them in quality interactions on a daily basis. Like talking with the baby and naming commonly used objects, letting the baby explore toys and move about, singing and reading to the baby, exposing your toddler to books and puzzles, expanding on the child's interest in specific activities. For example, if a toddler, he or she is interested in, shows more interest in dinosaurs, we can take them to a nearby museum and show them and make them learn more about it. And also answering that why question. This is very much common in age 3 to 5 years. For everything they will ask, why is it done? Why is it done? So we need to learn to answer to their why questions. So there are many theories which were suggested for the cognitive development, but one most widely studied, most widely accepted theory, it was given by a Swiss psychologist named Jean Piaget. He studied an account of how children and adolescents, they become able to think logically and scientifically. So in his theory, he proposed 4 major stages. The following 4 stages: there is sensory motor stage, pre-operational thinking, concrete operational thinking, and formal operational thinking. So these stages, they have different age patterns. The sensory motor stage is from birth to 2 years of age. The pre-operational stage is from 2 to 7 years of age. The concrete operational stage is from 7 to 11 years of age. And the formal operation stage is from 11 years and above to adulthood. So a brief description of each stage is that the sensory motor stage. So by the name, senses and motor. So it's a coordination of both senses with the motor responses, because a child from age 0 to 2 years, they will try to explore everything with their sense, like by touching it, by licking it. So they use all their senses and their motor activities. In this stage, the most important is object permanence is developed. So what is object permanence is, you see a child here, a toy is placed in front of the child. So he sees the child, he knows, okay, a toy is there. But when you keep a cardboard or you try to block the view of the child, a child who has developed the concept of object permanence, he will know that yes, behind the cardboard is the toy, and will try to search behind it. So this phenomenon is developed in this sensory motor stage. So the object permanence, it refers to the realization. Please, audience, thank you. It refers to the realization by a child that an object continues to exist even if it cannot be seen. So that's about the sensory motor stage. Pre-operational stage, which the age range is from 2 to 7 years. This includes all symbolic thinking, like they make use of symbols and graphs and pictures. So there is use of proper syntax and grammar to express full concepts. There is imagination. They imagine all their toys and their books. So all that type of thinking occurs in this stage. Abstract thinking doesn't develop still here. Next stage is the concrete operational stage, which occurs in 7 to 11 years. In this, the child develops the concept of conservation. For example, so these are 2 equally sized jar. For example, if you say this is about 100 ml of a jar, this is 100 ml, jar A, jar B, which another under 100 ml. A child who is from 7 to 11 years, that is in the concrete operational stage, if you try to take liquid from the jar B to jar C, he will know that yes, both are of the same quantity, just that the size of the jars are different. But a child lesser than this age, he will think, no, this jar C is larger than jar A. So this will distinguish what stage a child is in. And same way, this is for liquid quantity, same way for solid quantity. If there is 2 blocks of a clay given, equal sized, and if one is stretched out, the child in the concrete operational stage will know that yes, these are clay of same size. And also conservation of number. If the there are a few pebbles which are spaced, and in the next phase 2 it is far away space. So again, a child in this stage will know that no, there are same number of pebbles only, just that they're spaced far away. So this is the phenomenon of conservation. There's also a phenomenon of reversibility, which is also seen in this stage. It is that the child in this stage will know that yes, when I shifted, there is a phase 2, when the jar was changed to the same size. Similarly, when the liquid from jar C is poured again to jar B, it is the same amount. So reversibility is also developed and in this stage. So that is seen in the concrete operational stage. The final stage is 11 years plus till adulthood. In this, all the theoretical, hypothetical questions, abstract thinking, reasoning, strategy, planning, everything becomes possible at this stage. So the practical applications of this theory was that teachers, they can use this Piaget's theory when discussing whether the syllabus of the subjects are suitable according to the age group. What kind of syllabus will be?
Mute yourself.
What kind of syllabus is apt for the age group students, and teacher who work with children in both the pre-operational and the concrete operational levels, that is from 2 to 11 years of age, they can adopt suitable academic expectations with regard to children's cognitive development abilities. So coming to the normal cognitive milestones of a child. So like from birth, I'll be discussing just a few the basic points. From birth to 3 months of age, they will have anticipatory behaviors like the basic reflexes like rooting reflex, sucking reflex on the site of a nipple or a bottle. They would detect sound differences in pitch and volume. They will focus on moving objects like faces of caregivers. Most commonly the mothers, they will they will always focus on their mother's face. They will try to see when the movement of their mother. They will use the facial expressions to respond to their movement. A child from 3 to 6 months, the cognitive development seen is that they will imitate facial expressions. They will react to familiar sounds. That is, they will recognize their mother's voice. They will recognize their mother's face, the most common caregiver of the child, and they will respond to the facial expression of other people. So a child at 6 to 9 months of age, they will gaze longer at impossible things. For example, if a toy is suspended in mid-air, or some kind of toy like wind chimes toy, they will try to gaze longer at it. And then they will understand the difference between an animate and an inanimate object. For example, a toy and a pet, if you have, they will know the difference between the two. Utilize the relative size of an object and determine how far away it is. That is, they will know, okay, if this if a toy is placed far away, they know they cannot reach it, so they will just leave it. But if a toy is placed next to them, they will try to reach it. A child from 9 to 12 months, they will enjoy looking at picture books. They will not understand the concept, but the different colors and images, they will try to enjoy it, imitate gestures and some basic actions. And this is a stage where the object permanence, which was previously discussed, develops at this age, 9 to 12 months. 1 to 2 years of age, they identify objects that are similar and they imitate the actions and language of adults. For example, if you just say bye, they'll imitate bye. If you wave a hand, they'll wave back. So all that happens at this age. They learn through exploration, more of exploratory play this time, the toys and what can be done with those toys. And they will point out familiar objects and people in the picture books. So the picture books which were shown before, they will be more familiarized with the drawings in it. So they will point out to it. And a child from 2 to 3 years, they will identify their own reflection in the mirror. Okay, they will know, so this is me. They will address themselves in the mirror. They will imitate more complex adult actions. For example, if we're trying to do some laundry or some cleaning up task the mother is doing, they will try to imitate it. And they will name objects in a picture book. Like, for example, they would imitate, they will name the shape of the object, or the color of the object. And then they respond to simple directions from parents and caregivers. If you will like point out saying that go take it from there, they would they will respond by going to that place and taking that thing which they wanted. Then they will sort out objects by categories. For example, if you give them a lump of all toys, they will segregate animals separately, segregate birds separately, but whatever they know, they will try to sort out things by categories. And stacking is done at this age. You have those toys from the largest to smallest, they stack all those rings. So stacking occurs at this age. Then the 3 to 4 years, this is the age where they ask why questions. Why is this like this? Why is this like that? So it's the why questions. Why do they ask us? To gain information, to know more about it. So they demonstrate awareness of the past and the present, how it was before and how it is presently. They observe and listen to instructions, and they maintain a longer attention span of around 5 to 15 minutes. And after that, they get bored. They organize objects by size and shape. They seek answer to questions. Like when they ask a why question, they would prefer getting back an answer to it. And they understand how to group and match object according to color. If you tell them keep all the green toys in one place, they will pick out all the green things and keep it at a, they'll segregate all those toys. And then 4 to 5 years age group, they will create pictures. They often name and describe. They will count to 5 and more, draw the shape of a person. They will at least draw an haphazard shape. Like for example, I mean, draw a shape of a sun, they will know how to draw a shape of a sun, though not clear, but still we know it's a sun or it's a cloud or it's a house or a mountain. Then they will name and identify many colors. Then rhymes, they'll be well versed in rhymes at this age, and they will also know, they will also be knowing to tell where they live, their the area or whichever I mean things we have fed them into, they'll be knowing it where they live. So these were the basic cognitive development seen in a child. So next, going on to the behavioral development of a child. So a development of a human being from a conception to a full grown adult is a subject which has been fascinated people over generations. So it will be better understanding if we divide into different stages, like the which period corresponds to which age group. So the prenatal period corresponds to conception to birth, and the period of newborn is from birth to 1 month. The infancy period is from 1 month to 2 years of age, and the early childhood is from 2 to 6 years of age. The middle childhood is from 6 to 11 years of age. The adolescence is from 12 to 18 years of age, and the early adulthood is from 18 to 40 years of age. The middle age group is from 40 to 60 years of age, and old age is from 60 years and above. So there are the patterns of development. So there are 3 processes, like the biological process, the cognitive process, and the social process. The biological process, this includes the physical changes, like the growth of the child, the body organs, the motor skills, the hormonal changes, which happens within the body. All this corresponds to the biological, physical changes, which corresponds to biological process. The cognitive process again is the mental well-being, like the thinking, their intelligence, their language, how they make use of it, how they understand, how they solve a problem, they reason it, memorize. All these intellectual activities come under cognitive process. The social process, this involves a child's relationship with other people, like how they emotionally get along with other people, their personality, a child's personality we call as temperament. So how is the temperament of a child, whether does he or she get along with his peer, with their peer group or with others. So all this tells about the social process. So these are the 3 patterns of development, normal patterns of development. So growth and development in early childhood, both growth and development, they're complementary. They complement each other. So the growth indicates the quantitative changes, for example, height, weight, whereas development indicates both qualitative and quantitative changes. There are 2 sequences, like cephalocaudal and proximodistal. It is more of a medical term. Cephalocaudal is like, cephalo is from the head region, caudal is towards the end. So the development proceeds from head to toe. And proximodistal, it proceeds from center. Proximal is more close to the body, is from the center to the extremities, like from the spine to and then the development of arms, forearms, and then the hand. So development is essentially a result of interaction between maturation and learning. So maturation is in a child's genetic endowment, it's already stored. It's just that you have to unfold it. So maturation is nothing but unfolding of characteristics potentially present in individuals' genetic endowment. Learning it refers like after you learn through experience and practice. That is learning. So an interaction of maturation and learning gives you the development of a child. So the factors which affect the growth and development of a child is heredity. If you see a thin made parent, obviously the child will be the same. A short statured parent, same way. So heredity, whereas a big made or a tall parent, the child will be almost the same. So heredity plays an important role in development. Prenatal environment, when the mother is pregnant and has a safe prenatal period, the growth and development will be fine. But at the same time, the mother has, whether she's infected with some medical illness, or during the time of delivery, she had been suffering from some illness, then it will have an adverse effect on the development of the child. Nutrition is both during the prenatal period and the postnatal period. Good nutrition is in a way will promote good growth and development. The mental level, that is the intellectual capacity of the child, whether how much is their intelligence level, that will also promote the growth and development. Emotional climate of home, it's a very important thing, because in a house where there is too much of discard between parents or the other members of the family, the growth and development of the child is affected. So a peaceful climate that is at home will definitely promote a good growth and development in a child. The health of the child, everything was good, but the health of the child is not good, again that will have a bad factor. It will be a bad factor for the growth and development. And level of stimulation, if you don't stimulate a child much enough, the child will not interact much. So depending upon their stages, that is the age group, the child, the mother or the caregiver or the teacher, whoever is more close to the child, should keep stimulating them so that they will have good pattern of growth and development. And the socioeconomic status, it depends. When the socioeconomic status is low, much facilities will not be provided. So that also has one factor for the growth and development. And the sex of the child, studies show that the girls, they develop more, the growth and development is more when compared to boys. So coming to the behavioral milestones, the normal behavioral milestones. So I'll be discussing the age gap between, and what are the milestones seen in an age gap, and what kind of stimulation we as parent or we as teacher should be providing to them. So on a child around 2 to 3 months of age, they will try to smile at people, not all people, at least their mother, and then they will calm themselves often with their hands. They will coo or gurgling sounds, like that will be their form of communication. They will learn to recognize faces and respond accordingly, acting bored when they're engaged in a certain activity for too long. So this is the behavioral development seen a 2 to 3 month old child. So what we as a caregiver should do is, we should keep talking and playing with the child. When the child is feeding or changing or bathing, the more we talk, the more is a good development seen in the child. Then you set routines, like you should set a proper routine, like from morning, the time the child gets up to the time child sleeps. The routine, a proper routine should be set, and it should be regular. That will help the child for a good growth and development. And taking the time to learn more about the child's likes and dislike, what the baby likes, what the baby does not like, that we need to learn it. Acting excited, for example, if a child is making noise for the first time, or making noises, we need to act excited, so the child will know, okay, fine, I'll make more, let me develop more. So be excited with every milestone of the child. Use use a mix of normal language and copying the baby noises. Like we will communicate in what we speak, and also we will try to copy what they, like the noises which they make, and playing games like the baby, the book, hide and speak. So all this stimulation which to be provided to a child who is 2 to 3 months of age. When a child is at 4 months of age, smiling will be more and spontaneously. They'll be more, they often, this will happen in the presence of other people. Like when other people come and take them, they'll smile more, and it'll be very, very spontaneously. And they'll be wanting to and enjoy playtime more. The more you play with them, they will want it more. And then they will learn to copy facial expressions. Like when we smile, they will smile back. And then babbling, in the previous stage was cooing, now it will be babbling. And then learning to cry, like when they want to express the need. For example, if they feel hungry, they will learn to cry. If they want to sleep, they will learn to, they will cry. If they want to play, everything, whatever they want to express, they will express it by learning to cry. Then starting to display a wider range of emotions. They will respond to affection given to them. How, if you give a child a positive affection, a positive vibe is given to the child, you get back the same. When you give a negative vibe to them, you get back the same. And recognizing people and places familiar to them, and reacting accordingly. So a child at 6 months of age, they will begin to recognize familiar faces, and they will know, okay, this is my house people, this is a stranger. So they will know to distinguish between known and strangers, and they will like to play with you more, and they will like to start playing with others. For example, if they have a sibling or someone comes home to visit, they will like to play more with the same, but with the same age group, like with other children. Baby will start to respond more to the emotions of other people. For example, if in a house someone is shouting, obviously the baby will start to cry. If someone is happy and laughing, the baby will reciprocate the same thing. Language skills will start improving as you will hear the baby respond to sound. They will, when you give a sound, they will reply back with their baby sounds, and then they will start pairing vowels together. They will start saying all the first consonants, and they will use more of these sounds to express their emotions. Then they will start responding to their name. When you call out their name, at least they will look, they'll turn, okay, someone is trying to call, someone is calling out their name, so they will search for the voice. Curiosity will begin to manifest during this period, and they will try to get hold of things and learn more. They'll be more curious. What toy is this? What kind of toy is this? They'll be more curious at this age. At age 9 months, recognition skills will be developed. They will recognize, again, they'll be more afraid of strangers. They will just start to discover their likes and dislikes, and they will understand the concept of word no. No, you should not go there. Okay, they'll understand, okay, why is mother saying not to go there? Their babbling will become much more complex, and they will start to copy sounds and body language of others. They will understand the mechanics of play. Like, okay, this toy should be played this way. So they'll understand the mechanics. So the stimulation to be given at this stage will be that, like, now we should know the distinct likes and dislikes of our child. So we should provide things which is more comfortable and which will make them happy. And as I told you, that they'll be more clingier, because they will know, okay, this is our family people, this is a stranger. We need to make them sure that we are next. Okay, you can just keep the child on a chair or a bed, and at least let the child know that we're standing next to him or her, or at least in the same place nearby. Play games that are a bit more complex and allow the child to be more expressive and mimic all your actions. And try to talk to the baby about what the baby is feeling to help them better. For example, if a cracker sound comes, and if they are crying, you try to make them understand their emotion. Talk back to them. Did you get scared? Like, talk back what they felt. What did you interpret with their action? When the baby is looking at or touching things, make sure to describe. For example, if a child is taking an apple, you describe by saying it's a fruit, it's something which is edible. You try to say the color. At least describe its the texture of it. Try to describe what the child has taken in his hands. Start asking them to engage in behaviors that you want them to do, and start teaching the child about cause and effect by playing games or doing tasks like rolling balls or pushing little toy cars. Like teach them some complex games during this age. At 1 year of age, children at this age, they'll be more shyer and nervous when with people that they don't know. They often cry, and then they manage to define their likes and dislikes. They will know, okay, I like this, I don't like this. So they will define it. This is how it is. And certain situation, they will start showing fear. They'll be more vocal. They will try to talk more. Then they will start repeating certain sounds or actions to get your attention. They will start to respond to basic requests. They will use their tonal changes, like they will use their tone, the tone of the voice to communicate, and they'll be more exploratory during this stage. The stimulation to be given is give them toys and other objects. And I mean, on the other hand, you should also know, I mean, have a thing that the toy should be safe, not a sharp object or something. Be more firm in your voice, in the use of the word no. Like tell them gently, don't do this. Like don't punish them or something. I mean, be very, I mean, speak in a low tone. Sometimes a brief timeout can be done if needed. Reinforce good behavior. Like if they do a good thing, hug them, kiss them, praise them. Reinforcing the child is a very, very important thing to be done. Be vocal with things that you're doing and make sure that you're descriptive. Like when you ask the child to do, describe what you want the child to do. For example, if you want the child to take something from the table, tell him or her that you go there, it's on this corner of the table, it's some red color. Describe the process the child has to do, and make the child do it. Try to read with your child every day. Books, there are plenty of books everywhere you can read. The child, they'll have their favorite books, so try to read with a child. When a child says something or tries to describe something, build upon their observation to help them learn more vocabulary. So improve their vocabulary and make them more expressive. Give your child more activities that help them release and express their creativity. So the more you show them, the more creative they become. So at 18 months of age, they will interact more. They will, in this age, they will start to express their anger. They'll be afraid or hesitant in new situations. They'll be interested in new things. Everything they want to do new, they want to explore more. And when when we as parents say no, don't do it, they'll express their anger out of it. Then in language, you will use single words. They will use single words. Use basic body language. They will try to say that they had wet their pants, or they will there's something touching their fingers. So they'll try to communicate that way. The child will have a better understanding of certain objects and will respond to basic commands with ease. So because they are more of exploratory in this stage, we need to make sure that the environment that they are is safe, loving, and stable, so that they feel secured. And describe their emotions to help them better understand. Encourage the child to play pretend more often. Understand the child and empathize the child whenever needed. Use simple words and phrases that help your child understand emotions and actions. Ask simple questions when you need something from your child. Like for example, if you want like asking the child if he's hungry, like you can ask, do you want to have a glass of milk? Like ask simple questions which the child can answer in their mother tongue, whichever is convenient to them. Start teaching your child essential problem solving skills. So when a child is 2 years, they will try to copy other children, adults. Like for example, if a mother is wearing a scarf, the girl child will try to take a cloth and try to wear it on their head. So they will try to copy other children and adults. They'll get more excited about being in the presence of other children. They'll be more independent. And now tantrum was seen in the previous 18 months, that is they'll get angry. Now it will go to defiance. Defiance is being disobedient. Like they know they should not do it, but they will do it. Tantrums will be there, but this stage will show more of defiant stage. Then including children in their play when it comes to certain activities, they will know to identify people, things, and places. They'll be like, yeah, I mean, they'll know, okay, this the hall is in this place, the kitchen is here. So they will know places. Saying sentences around 2 to 4 words. They'll follow the basic directions. They will repeat overheard conversations. When a mother and father are conversing, they will try to repeat those words. Understand different shapes and colors. they'll complete more complex sentences within the books. The stimulation to be given at this, like again, basic activities at home. For example, if you're folding clothes, try to give, obviously they're not going to fold cleanly, neatly, but at least try to give them, or if you're cleaning a table, ask them to do it, or ask them to fetch something for you. So try to make them do basic activities at home, and when they do it, praise them for it. Making more scheduled play dates, like other children, so that they can communicate with other children, so have more play dates for them. Teach your child more about their body parts, like saying that, teach their body parts, and then the animals and common things around, which is in the house, and helping the child learn words rather than allowing them to simply point out what they want, which is more common. Like, not the common words, at least new words you should try to make them learn. And then this age, give them more of puzzles and fun games. They will try to learn, and games which will include shapes, colors, and problem solving skills. Engage in more creative activities and more of active games. So when a child is 3 years of age, they'll begin to show more attention towards their family members, and they will be more considerate. They'll have a better understanding of what belongs to them and what things belong to other people. Like, they will have that ownership. No, this is my toy, this is your toy. So they'll have that ownership. A child of this age will have, and they'll express a much larger emotions than seen in the previous stages. And the child will become easily upset if routine is disturbed. For example, you wake the child up, after the toilet activities, and after have the breakfast. If you change the routine, the child might show some way of being upset. So try to have a scheduled routine for the child. They will start using more complex sentences and express their emotions well enough. So the stimulation to be given, again, continue to have the child play in groups, have the relationship.
ஸ்கூல் ஓபன் பண்ணாலும் பண்ணாட்டியா நீங்க அதான் 15 தேதி நான் கவர்மெண்ட் ஆர்டர் வெயிட் பண்றேன்.
Help the child with problem solving techniques, and start to set more rules and limitations. Like, you have to say that, yes, you have to, after playing, you have to keep the toys back in that toy box. So you have to set more rules and limitations, and this is the only this much is the time to play, this much the time for anything. Set rules and limitations, and give your child more complex tasks and directions. At 4 years of age, enjoy taking part in new activities. Make them play a part of the family. Like, this is the age where they play mom and dad games or brother sister games. Like, they play more of a family type of a game. They become more creative in this age, and they imagine, more of imaginary play will be seen. Feeling the need to play with others, they will need more friends, or more the family circle to play with. Cooperating better with other children, and inability to distinguish what is real from what is make believe. And then they'll become more vocal about what they like. They will understand language, rules, songs, stories, whatever is given to them, whatever is communicated to them, they will try to understand it more in a better way. And they will start to understand and use things such as numbers and time. The stimulation given here is play more games that involve imaginary aspects, like role play type of a game, and then give the child choices in certain things. It should be a simple choice, like, do you want to play this toy or this toy, or do you want to have a milkshake or something which is made at home, or a fruit juice? You can ask them simple choices, and make them communicate to you why do they want it and what they want it, allowing the child to handle their issues, but assisting whenever needed. And they will try to learn more complex things such as time, grammar, and sequence of events, and giving the child guidance on how to interact better with others. So a child at 5 years of age, they will be, again, they'll be wanting more friends, and they want to be more happier with them. They'll be more agreeable with rules, the rules which were set in the previous age group. They'll be more agreeable. Okay, fine, this is how I should play only for 1 hour, or I should be playing only with this kind of toys and not with this kind of toys. They'll be more agreeable at this age, and they'll engage in creative activities activities such as acting, singing or dancing. They'll be more aware of their self. They'll become more independent from their parents. They'll act very cooperatively or resistant. It depends upon the mood they are. They speak very effective to communicate their emotion and needs. And the stimulus, they continue to make sure the child is interacting with other children and allow them to more freedom and solve any potential issues. If like the both two children are having any issues, try to solve them if needed. Talking back, this can be alleviated with the proper punishment and then positive reinforcement when your child does something the right way. Teaching the child important things such as this age, you teach them, give them the address or the phone number. Then talking to your child about the private areas and then about the good touch and the bad touch. Helping a child to understand times of the day, days of the week, and other time-oriented topics, allowing a child to learn more about their interest to different things in a community. For example, if they love fire trucks, again, going to see a fire truck at a local station, all that, you can engage them in. So these were the basic behavioral development, normal development seen in a child. When any of these is disrupted, either by internal or external factors, we come across behavioral disorders. So when a child cannot adjust to a complex environment around them, they become unable to behave in a socially acceptable way. So they will result in a exhibition of peculiar behaviors, and these are called behavioral problems. So again, I told you it can be internal or external. It can be due to faulty parental attitude, the way the parents bring up, the inadequate family environment, a hostile environment in the house, influence of social relationship, their friends, whom they get along, influence of mass media, whatever is shown on TV or phones, and influence of any social change. For example, the socioeconomic status, anything this abrupt change, it will lead into behavioral disorders. Corona one again is a social change which is affecting the children's development. So the types of behavioral problems seen in children is that emotional deprivation, physical deprivation, social deprivation, and other forms. Emotional deprivation, when they're emotionally deprived, like when they're neglected, that is what is so emotional deprivation. So the disorders coming under emotional deprivation is temper tantrums, most commonly seen, breath holding spells, jealousy, insomnia, nightmares, somnolence, masturbation or homosexuality, and bruxism. And the disorders seen due to physical deprivation is enuresis, encopresis, tics, nail biting, pica, thumb sucking, and ADHD, again, which is more common in school age group. And the disorders seen due to social deprivation is repeated failure, lying, truancy, ODD, which is oppositional defiant disorder, conduct disorder, and other.
Neha, can you just explain the physical behavior in normal terms?
I'll be discussing.
They will not know the technical terms. Yeah.
Okay, so temper tantrums is a child throwing, shouting and throwing themselves on the floor, saying, "I want this, I want that." That is what is temper tantrums is. Breath holding spells is they will try to hold their breath, they will not breathe at all for a minute. Sometimes they will, when their thing is done, when whatever they asked for is done, they will breathe normally. Sometimes they will go into a cyanotic episode. So that is an emergency, medical emergency. So breath holding spells. Jealousy, when another child is getting much more toys, that type of when they're deprived of it, that is jealousy. Insomnia is sleep disturbance. They won't be able to sleep. The usual sleep pattern is disrupted, and even during the night time they won't be able to sleep. Nightmares, again, having those they say that the dreams whichever they get, which is very they will say, "Mommy, Daddy, I had such a dream last night, which was very terrific or horrific," those type of nightmares. Somnolence is too much of sleep. They will have their proper night sleep, but again, they will sleep at odd times, like during classes, when they're eating. That is excess sleep is somnolence. Masturbation, homosexuality. Masturbation is again the act which is done during the teenage group, too much of sexual pleasure. Homosexuality is getting attracted to the same sex. Bruxism is teeth grinding. Some children, they'll try to have a grinding type of noise. They'll keep on doing it. All this will be done when they are anxious or when they are frustrated, when they want certain things to be done, or this type of episodes will be seen in the child who's emotionally deprived. Physical deprivation is enuresis is bedwetting. It's generally seen during the night time, but also it's also seen during the daytime bedwetting. So this should be done seen only named only after 5 years of age. So before 5 years, if the child is bedwetting or is wetting their dresses in school, is quite normal. More than 5 years, more than 5 years, if the child is bedwetting, then we give them it as enuresis. Encopresis is passing stools in their cloth or during the night time or anywhere outside. So that is encopresis. Tics is type of there are two types of tics, vocal tics and motor tics. You would see some children, they'll keep blinking their eye, or they'll keep doing some type of gestures continuously. Those are called tics. Or they will vocal tics is like some noise which will be made from their throat, or some grinding noises. So that is called tics. Nail biting, as the name is understood, they keep biting their nails. Pica is they will not have the normal food, but they will have an urge to eat something, for example mud or plastic things from the toys. That is an abnormal eating pattern, pica. And thumb sucking, as the name goes, is they have a thing to suck their thumb. And attention deficit hyperactive disorder, I'll be discussing in later. It's where a child who has difficulties in paying attention and who's who is hyperactive. They cannot stay calm in a place. They have to keep moving around. So that is ADHD. And coming to social deprivation, repeated failures. When they're socially deprived, when their status of the house is not good, there'll be repeated failures, academic failures, or failures in other fields of life. Lying, it's understood, they'll keep lying. Truancy is not going to school. They would tell their parents they're going to school, but they will not go to school, and they will roam about or make groups of friend groups, and the people will be of more age, like elder to them. So truancy is not going to school. Oppositional different disorders, again, where there is violating the social laws, like they'll be aggressive. And actually both ODD and conduct is same. They'll be aggressive. They'll be aggressive to for example, a cat or a dog. They'll throw stones at it. They will hit it, and then they'll try to they'll destroy properties. All that is seen. That only difference is that oppositional defiant disorder is seen at an earlier stage. Conduct disorder is seen at or 15 to 18 years of age. That's the only difference between these two. And then sibling rivalry is the rivalry between two brothers, sisters, or sisters, or brothers, and any speech disorder when they have difficulty in communicating. So this is just a gist.
They have a question. What is physical deprivation? They are asking.
Yeah. Physical deprivation is like, for example, the nutrition. It's not proper. The way physically is like that's the growth of the child physically, right? So when they have no proper nutrition given to them, their height or their weight will be less. So for example, we will provide food, but for a child with pica, they will not want to have a nutritious food. So they'll be deprived of the food, and they'll go on to have an abnormal eating pattern. Or so that is physical, something which is physically seen. Or example, internally, if they have some hormonal imbalances, which even in those children, for example, ADHD, physical, it is genetic. It is more common when a mother or a father is ADHD. 75% of the chance the child will also be ADHD. So that is physical is what within the body. That's physical deprivation. Shall I continue?
Yes, please.
So I'll be discussing some of the most common disorders seen in children. So first is temper tantrums. So this is seen at the age of 18 months to 3 years. It develops with development of sense of autonomy. Autonomy is like their importance, being independent. I want this means I want this. So it is for me, so please get this. So they have that sense of autonomy which is being developed at this age group. So what they'll do is they will display defiance. Defiance again is being disobedient, negativism, being negative. For example, you mean temper tantrums is seen anywhere, at homes, at schools, especially in shopping malls, where a child will specifically want this toy, and when the parent does not want to get, I mean, depending upon their reasons, the child will you will see the child rolling on the ground or crying or not eating. So all these forms are temper tantrums. So it's a normal part. It's generally seen at this age group, but when it is beyond the level, then we have to we as teachers or psychiatrists, we have to investigate why. Why is it and what can be done. The child wrongly learns that the tantrums are reasonable response to frustration. So what the child will think is, okay, I didn't eat, I'm frustrated. At the same time, my mom did not get me a toy, so I'm going to throw a tantrum. So they think the way of showing out their frustration is by throwing a tantrum. So precipitating factors, again, when the child is hungry or fatigue or tired, when there is lack of sleep, innate personality. When I told you personality, the temperament of the child, sometimes when we as psychiatrists, when we ask how the child is during the childhood, some others will be like, yeah, he or she is an easy child. Some others will be like, oh my God, very difficult to, I found very difficult to bring about this child. So there is a personality of the child which was during their childhood period. Effective parenting. There are different modes of parenting, where the parenting is inconsistent or uninvolved. That type of makes a child throw tantrums. When you don't
Neha, you're not
am I audible now? Can I continue? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody has a question today. They want you to explain what is truancy.
Truancy is not going to school, attending school. Like the mother will think, yes, the child is going to the school, or will go drop the child in the school, but the child from the school will either run away or get permission from the school if it's an elder child. It will halfway get out of the school, or will not attend school at all. That's truancy.
They want to know what is fatigue.
Fatigue is being tired. Fatigue is tired when too much of play, or too much of not sleeping in the night, or too much of school work. Fatigue is being tired.
Please continue.
Yeah. So I was in the personality of the, ineffective parenting and over pampering. So anything too much or too less will affect. So same way, when the parenting is ineffective, uninvolved parenting or inconsistent parenting, there are 4 types of parenting, out of which 2 are bad, ineffective and uninvolved. Inconsistent, uninvolved. So those kind of parenting will again make a child prone to throw temper tantrums. Over pampering, too much of getting goods and chocolates and sweets or whichever you pamper them more, again that child is prone for a temper tantrum. And a dysfunctional family, again, when the harmony is not maintained within the family, those children will throw a temper tantrum. And school aversion, when they don't like to go to school, when you wake the child to get ready to school, they will throw a tantrum saying that no, I don't want to go to school. They may have obvious reasons, they may not like the teacher, they may not like the class, they may not like their friends, but they will show it out by throwing a tantrum. So these are the precipitating factors which makes a child throw a tantrum. Yeah. So, I mean, when a child is throwing a tantrum, what all a child can do is either scream, bite, hammer, that is bang their head, stamp feet, thrash their arms, kicking, throwing objects, rolling on the floor. These are just the basic symptoms I've been telling. There are so many other things which a child can do. Again, mild to very severe, but these are the common things seen in a child who's throwing a temper tantrum. So how do you manage a child with temper tantrums? It generally sees with age, it will reduce. And mostly this insecure child, those children throw a temper tantrum. So try to remove the underlying insecurity or overprotection, or if there's a faulty parental attitude, try to address it to the parent themselves. And during an attack, the child should be protected from injuring himself. So I told you there'll be head banging and thrashing of arms. So the child should not injure himself and at the same time not injure others. Deviating his attention from the immediate cause and changing the environment. For example, the child is throwing a tantrum saying that he wants a toy. So you try to deviate, distract his attention so that he will stop throwing tantrums. And then parents should be calm, loving, firm, consistent, and such behavior should not allow the child. For example, the parent is not shouting or talking back to the child, and the parent is trying to be calm, the child should not take advantage. Okay, fine, my mom is not going to say anything, so let me shout, let me scream. No, we have to be calm. At the same time, try to distract him. As a parent or as a teacher, whoever the child is with, we need to be calm and loving. Don't shout at them, but at the same time try to bring the child out from that environment. And ignoring is an effective way. If they are crying or throwing tantrums, try to ignore it. Is you be with the child nearby, make sure he or she is safe, make sure others are safe, nothing, no sharp objects nearby, and try to ignore it. So the child will know, okay, fine, whatever I do, my caretaker is not responding, so let's not do this. So in a day or 2 or 3, it will reduce, and in the future it will cease out. Timeout procedure. Sometimes if they throw, you can tell them, see, if you next time throw a tantrum, you have to be seated in this room for 10 minutes. Again, a safe room, a safe environment. But timeout procedure are not being followed nowadays because it is not much efficient, but they were being followed previously. So if what would a teacher do if a child is throwing a tantrum in the classroom? So before, during, and after. So before is talk about the emotions. So the most important thing is you have to talk, what makes them throw, what is making them go into frustration, what is making them throw a tantrum. Talk about it. That is before, when they throw a tantrum or a normal time. Talk about their emotions, discuss how things are at home, discuss their insecurities, all that. Then know your students. Then know their likes and dislikes. What does the student like, what does the student does not like, and what makes them happy or sad. So know your students well and pay attention. For some children, a particular trigger will throw a tantrum. So know that, okay, fine, doing this will trigger the child. So pay attention to the triggers nearby in the classroom or other students, which might, the activity of other children might trigger tantrums in the child. So try to pay attention in the nearby environment and master the art of distraction. So I told you, try to distract the child however possible, by showing them plays and homework or any academic things, whichever the child is interested in. Try to distract the child. This is before tantrums. during tantrum, first important thing, keep everyone safe. That is the child who's throwing tantrum and also the children nearby, so that no one gets hurt, no one is hurt physically. So try to keep all these sharpened things or sharp things, anything, a blade or anything nearby. No, don't keep it anywhere. I mean anything nearby the child, keep it away. And even they will try to throw things, so nothing should be placed near the child. So keep everyone safe. Same time, keep your cool. Yes, you have to be patient enough to, I mean, when the child is throwing a tantrum, and provide a calm space and talk through it. So like whenever we as an adult, when we feel, when we have issues, we would like to talk about it. Same way a child, when the child is having some issues at home or some issues somewhere else with other friends in his classroom, try, and he may portray it by throwing a tantrum. So talk through the difficulties going through the child's life. So this is during tantrums. And after tantrum has occurred, never ignore the tantrum had occurred. Okay, fine. I mean, he did it because out of hunger, so let's leave it. No, no, no. Always, I mean, discuss it. Once the tantrum is has occurred, try to talk to the child, saying that what you did was not right, and try to also address that because of this, other children will also be affected. So make him or her understand what he did and what was the consequence of his action. So do never ignore the tantrum and encourage empathy. Empathize the child, because the child definitely will have some faulty factor which is making him doing it. So encourage empathy the child and make him feel safe and secured. So that was about temper tantrums. The next common disorder which we as psychiatrists come through is attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Most commonly, mothers would say, or the teachers will say to the mother, they never, this child never sits in in a silent place, never sits in a place for more than 5 minutes, never pays attention. This is a very, very common disorder we as psychiatrists see. So it is most common neurobehavioral disorder affecting the school age children. In this, it is characterized by inattention. The child cannot pay attention. How much ever, whether the class is for 10 minutes or whether the class is for half an hour or 1 hour, the child cannot pay attention at all. And even if he tries to pay attention, he cannot sustain that attention for a longer time. Increased distractibility. For example, the child is looking at the teacher. The teacher is taking class, he'll be distracted by, for example, a small butterfly flying or anything nearby, whichever is near in his vision, he will get easily distractible. And poor impulse control. They cannot control their impulses. If they're like, they have to do this, they will do it. They cannot control. They know, okay, doing this wrong, but they cannot have a control over their impulses. And motor overactivity and motor restlessness is nothing but, again, not sitting quietly in a place. When you take them to a doctor, they cannot sit. When you take them for a PTA meeting, when the child and the mother comes, they cannot sit. They have to keep moving here and there. That is how a child with ADHD presents, either with inattention, either hyperactivity, or a combination of both. And such children, they will lose things. That is, they'll forget things. Your mother will pack when 2 sets of pencils, definitely the child will not know where he or she kept it. They will lose things, and they will not complete their homeworks. They will not know, they cannot go home and tell the mother what did they learn, because they are not paying attention. So these are all the things seen in a child with ADHD. So because of this, when a child is affected, they will experience academic underachievement and problems with interpersonal relationship with family members and peers, and low self-esteem. So all this will be seen in a child with ADHD, and across the globe, around 9% of the school age children are affected. So while diagnosing ADHD, it is, we as psychiatrists, we follow the guidelines in which it specifically says that these factors should be seen in 2 areas. Some parents will say, no, he's only a hyperactive child in school. He's very good at home. Then no, you cannot diagnose ADHD. Some will say he's very hyperactive at home, but he's a very silent child at school. Then you cannot diagnose ADHD. At least in 2 sittings, like home and school. Both sittings, if he has the same, not paying attention, being hyperactive, then you diagnose ADHD. So you need to evaluate information from a variety of sources, like from the child himself, from the parents, like how he or she is at home, from the teachers, how he or she is in the school, from the physicians, like for example when they come to us, whether the child was sitting in his given chair quietly, or did he listen to what did the physician say. All this we have to get information and then make the diagnosis. So management, there is no proper treatment, like you cannot cure it, but at least reduce the amount of hyperactivity or increase their attention. So there's no complete cure for this. So psychosocial treatment, the parents and child, like they should be educated, like what ADHD is and how it will affect the child's learning, behavior, self-esteem, and social skills. And the clinician, like the physician, they should set goals for the family to improve the child's interpersonal relationship, develop study skills, and decrease the disruptive behaviors. And behaviorally oriented treatment, for example, if the behavior is hyperactive, give more stress to that type of behavior and treat accordingly. If the behavior is inattention, again give stress to that. But there is only modest successful successful at improving such behaviors when you combine the psychosocial treatments along with pharmacology. That is, when you give them medications, which I'll be not talking here. When you give a combination of both medications and psychosocial treatments, then yes, success is seen in but not 100%, because you cannot make a child sit at all, and you cannot make a child listen completely the entire 1 hour. Yes, even normal childs have inattention, even normal childs are hyperactive. So at least the level of distress reduces with a combination of medications and psychosocial treatments. So, okay, now you have an ADHD child in a classroom. So, what can teachers do? So, first, build a strong relationship with the child's parents. First, discuss, does he or she does the same this at in their house also. And very commonly, as I told you, when a father or a mother is ADHD, 75% chance the child will be ADHD. So whether is anyone else in the house who have been diagnosed or not diagnosed but still show features of ADHD during their childhood. So discuss how it is at home. What does the child do from morning till night? So have a strong relationship with the child's parent. Educate fellow pupils. Also try to educate people, saying that yes, he or she is hyperactive because yes, do not say that she has a disorder. It'll stigmatizing. At least tell them yes, she's hyperactive because she's like that. So the other people will not bully them, or if she's not paying attention, tell the fellow pupils yes, it will take some time for her to understand. So this bullying will be reduced when you educate the fellow pupils. Then establish seating arrangement, like try to make sure the child is nearby the teacher, because if you keep the child far away, you will not know that whether is he or she paying attention. You will not know whether hyperactive doesn't mean that you have to keep moving about. They can keep fidgeting. They can keep fidgeting with their pencil. They can keep fidgeting by shaking their legs continuously. So you have to monitor the child is seated next to the teacher, or at least in the vicinity of the teacher. So have a positive seating arrangement, and then establish rules and routines. Have a proper rules and routines for the child. Like you have to complete this number of so have rules and routines set, that saying that you have to listen to this half-an-hour class. You have and at the end of the class you'll be asked questions and you have to answer. Try to feasible rules and routines to be set for people, so at least they will listen. They will try to listen, saying that yes, okay, anyways ma'am is going to ask me the question after the class, so let me try to listen. So this can be done. Then be simple, clear, and direct. So in whatever you try to explain to the child, make it be simple. Don't use much words which the child cannot understand. So, and say direct, yes, take to this, take this page number, or whatever, how much over direct and clear you can be. Please address the child that way. Break things up. Don't give the child a big block of things to be done. Yes, you have to do 10 pages of homework. No, break it up, smaller smaller chunks you make, the more feasible it will be for a child with ADHD to do. For example, you can say in 2 days, try to finish off 2 pages of homework. Then when once that is done, you check it. Then again say, okay, 2 pages. If you say that in the next 5 days, complete 10 pages, definitely the child is not going to do. But if you say in that 5 pages, 1 day, 2 pages of homework, if you break down to smaller chunks, then it will help the child with an ADHD to finish it. Allow extensions. For example, for normal students, you give them 5 days of time, you give him 6 days. So feasible extensions, not very like 10 days or 20 days more, just feasible extensions or extra time. If the exam time is only 45 minutes, try to give him 50 minutes. So just feasible extensions can be given to the child. And reward good behavior. Whether a child is with ADHD or not, any child should be rewarded. When good behavior is done, always reinforce that and reward them with good behavior. And make tasks interactive. Anywhere, whether be it a webinar, be any classroom activity, unless it's interactive, child will not listen. So how much ever try to show charts or whatever interactive thing that the topic is on, try to make it interactive so the child will show attention when the class is going on. So this was about ADHD. The next I'll be talking about conduct disorder. Okay, so next is about conduct disorder. In this, where you violate the basic rules of self and others. The symptoms include as aggression, destruction, deceitfulness, it is lying on tricking others, truancy, running away, and stealing. So when you have a conduct disorder in a classroom, again, you plan, the child, like what that, again, first have a good relationship with the parent, and also know about the strength of the child, like the likes and dislikes of the child, supervise the child, keep the child nearby, like how you do with ADHD child, keep them nearby. And you also have a talk with qualified professionals, if you need any help. And also if the child is taking any medications, also discuss with the parents for possible side effects of the medications. And also be aware that these children will be cruel to others, cruel to animals. So have a collaboration with the jurisdictional team, and then create pathways for movement. Because if there's any very conduct disorder being done, if they try to break things, there should be pathways for people to escape. So create pathways for movement. And the school staff who have a child of conduct disorder, they must be trained in crisis management. And also make them, definitely these children will have academic difficulties. So what you have to do is, instead of saying don't do this, make them say kindly do this. Like don't go out, tell them please be seated here. So try to have your language as do this, do that. And then make one request, keep a calm voice, quiet voice, make eye contact, be clear and be specific in your terms. And also have a behavior support plan. Also make this is just I'll just go. Yeah, so that's it with conduct disorder. Next is learning disabilities. So again, this is very much commonly seen in critical disorder, where a child has difficulty in listening, speaking, writing, reasoning. And such difficulties will have interference with academic performance. So what are the types of learning? So what are the types of learning disorders? There are 7 types. First is dyslexia. Dyslexia, where with the child has difficulty in reading. And yes, during the introduction, ma'am and sir did speak about Albert Einstein. And yes, he was dyslexic. He had difficulties in reading. He was very good in mathematics, but he was a dyslexic child, had difficulty in reading grammar. So next type is dysgraphia, where the child has difficulty in writing or drawing. So poor handwriting is a hallmark of it. And then dyscalculia, where they'll have problems with mathematics. There is struggle with math concepts, numbers, and reasoning. And next type is auditory processing disorder, where they cannot differentiate sounds. For example, if a teacher is talking, they cannot differentiate a teacher's voice with the background noise. That is auditory processing disorder. And language processing disorder, it's a subset where they'll have difficulties or challenges in processing the spoken language and both receptive and expressive language. And then non-verbal learning disabilities, it refers in difficulties in decoding. For example, someone is trying to wave, they will not know, they cannot decode it. Someone is asking them to come, like showing a hand, asking them to come, they cannot understand it. So the non-verbal language, they'll have difficulties. The same way, next is visual perceptual or visual motor. They will have difficulties in hand-eye coordination. Like that is, they will have difficulties in navigating. They will not know which way to go to their bathroom, which side to go to the bedroom. In that way, they'll have difficulties in such. So when you have a child with learning disabilities in classroom, again, provide a clear structure and expectations. They'll have these children will have trouble focusing, so have a different communication mode to express them, like say it and write on the board, use simple language, present material in small chunks, and again, model, practice, check, keep repeating what you say and what you want them to do as. Then be flexible, like allow different approaches like note taking, oral responses, or use of technology, which is now being done. Be organized and promote organization. Have an organized classroom. Don't have the desk of the child and the teacher should be clutter free. Everything should be the same place, because it'll be easy for them to access it. So just be organized and promote organization. Reward and acknowledge. Again, reward the child if they do a good behavior. Give timely feedback, again saying that yes, this was good, yes, this could have been done better. So give timely feedback, and then try to use mnemonics and memory enhancers which will learn. So that is with learning disabilities. The last is on autistic disorder. It's a neurodevelopmental disorder, because why did I include here is because they'll have difficulties in cognition also. So the three main criteria for autistic disorder is impairment in social interaction. They cannot interact much with other children or with adults. They'll have that impairment. Impairment in communication. They cannot, the language will be, they cannot communicate in a normal language which we all communicate. And then they'll have restricted and repetitive behavior patterns, interest or activities. So the signs, when you see a child, when you call out a child's name and does not respond, so that is one of the signs. They don't respond to the name called, and they don't make eye contact. There is no social smile. The child does not babble by 12 months. There is no back forth gestures, like when you waving by 12 months, no words by 16 months, no meaningful two-word phrases by 24 months. Failure to develop pure, they cannot maintain peer relationship, like the friends of their age, they cannot maintain it. And then they'll have the repetitive certain phrases. And pronoun reversal. Pronoun reversal is like, if they want to say I am feeling hungry, they will say it as you are feeling hungry. It'll be a reversal of what they want to say. And they'll be preoccupied with certain toys. Some children, they'll be like, they'll have those sharks or some toy, whichever their favorite is, they'll keep having that in their hand, they'll preoccupied with it, and they'll have a complete compulsive adherence. Like this has to be done, yes, this has to be done first, you cannot change it, or you cannot do that in the evening. It has to be a compulsive adherence to routines. Stereotypes and repetitive movements like hand flapping, head banging, all these are seen. How do you manage? Again, set up an organized classroom, give them calm breaks, set up a calm zone, and then reduce visual clutter. Too much of clutter, reduce it, and be aware of sensory sensitivities. And then you manage the teaching and learning environment. Like if there is, you prepare them for today's activity. When you it will reduce their, organize them. And for example, if a routine has to be changed, them to it, why are you changing the routine, and what will be done instead of that normal routine. So simple language, check for comprehension, do not metaphors or sarcasm, be very specific, and provide instruction to ensure the student knows what to do, how to do, and when to do it. And language, for example, instead of saying clean up the science lab, say like put the microscope back on the shelf. Request them, please put the microscope back. So again, changes in routines, try to avoid, but no, we cannot avoid that change. Explain them during the early hours of the class that this particular class will not happen today. This particular teacher will not be coming. There is a, for example, there's change in the teachers. Give them there's a change happening, and also remind them that that from tomorrow, yes, the change will be back again. So this is how you manage a child with autism in class. So I've come to the end of my webinar today. So thank you everyone for your patient listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Neha, madam. Really, the session is very wonderful, informative, excellent. What are the informations you passed on is very, very important for our teachers at the primary level, for particularly physical developments and behavioral changes age-wise is really very worth. I think a booklet can be brought out in this form and submitted to all our teachers, inshallah. Thank you, Dr. Madam. Thank you. Now I request we have come to the program closing session. Vote of thanks.
I'll just, I will just conclude, sir. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Neha Rumaiza, for the wonderful presentation. You have been very patient because of the time delay and all that. I think everybody would have understood very well. We will also try to pass on the PowerPoint to you. And if anybody has questions, you can ask in Tamil or Urdu. Any questions? So she has summed up the behavior, what behavior should be there in the house, and when the children come to us, how what we have to expect, and if there is any change from the normal behavior, the teachers can ask the parents when the child was born, how it was, what happened, did the child cry, did the child behave in a certain manner when it was 6 years old or something like that. So we have to get the history of the child before it came to school. And then when in school, all children are not alike. They have individual differences. So they can, we have to understand the psychology of the child, and then accordingly, in a very smooth manner, we have to teach them. Yes, Anjum madam, you can go ahead with your question.
Assalamu alaikum. I wanted to know that how to deal with a child who is not able to share her stuff with the small child, with the her baby brother or the sibling rivalry. Yeah, sibling rivalry, and the child is like 4.5, and it's very difficult and throws tantrum if we ask to share or if we share her stuff. So how to deal with such child, and how to teach them to accept the little baby brother.
Neha?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, sibling rivalry is very common. It is seen in almost 5 out of 10 houses. So what you can do is first teach her anything. Yes. Definitely a child is not born with the knowledge of ABC. You teach, and they cannot learn ABC on the day one. So you teach her. For maybe initially she will not accept sharing the toy. But later on, when the days goes on, and for example, same thing again, if you tell her that, see, if you do this, I will reward you with something else. That is, if you want to reduce one behavior, you have to increase another behavior. That is what we call this reinforcement. So if you share this toy with your sister or brother, that is your sister or brother, what you can do is, I will maybe whatever the child likes, you will be given extra time to play toys, or you'll be given her favorite thing. But we
have tried all that. We have tried it, but still.
What is the age gap between the two children?
It's 3 years gap, 3.5.
The elder child is 4.5.
4.5, and the younger one is 1.
1 year, because the mother of the child be more closer to the younger one. So the mother should, once you're done with feeding or whatever the work the mother does, try to give the child to the father or the in-laws, and try to spend more time with the elder one. because she
Okay.
will have an insecurity saying, okay, fine, after this child, mommy is not spending time with me, mommy is not giving her time to me, and that too now there is no school, so the entire day they are at home. So try to, if the mother is a primary caregiver, if she's more close to the mother, let the mother give the first, I mean, the second child to their family, and then try to spend more time with the elder child, so that
Okay.
then she will try to have love towards her sibling.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can add up to
Okay.
that. You can give the ownership of that small child to the elder one. So you can
Okay.
you should always say this is your child, your sister, your thing,
Yeah.
sense of belonging, and you have to look after him like that. You can repeatedly. It is all the way we teach the relationship. So they take
Mashallah.
up responsibility. Yeah.
Jazakallah. One more question, if I can ask,
Yeah.
is
Yeah. 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 Go
about
ahead.
the cognitive development of the child. Like, I'm homeschooling my child, and I just wanted to know, she's 4 and 5. She is about to 5, inshallah. So what are the things which develops? Like, is it language or is it logic? How should we go? We have started language, but should we add up the maths and all? Like, what is the developmental phases? And
Yeah, definitely you should add all those things. All the puzzles, especially. Definitely you should, logic and all you should teach. They are very smart.
at this
5-year-olds
age,
are
is
very
it
smart.
is it recommended
Yeah,
to
yeah,
add
yeah,
all the stuff
yeah,
together?
yeah, all the stuff, all the stuff. The brains are
Okay.
growing and they catch everything. Whatever you throw at them, they catch.
Yeah.
Sister, I would like to
Jazakallah.
add compliment. We have a separate session, one session early child care education. In that we will deal all this, not only language
Inshallah.
development, all other
Okay.
social development, the cognitive development, physical motor development, all these to be holistically addressed. Inshallah, we will
Okay.
detail
If I
it in
can
that
get the link
session.
or anything.
No, same,
Yes,
Jill.
yes,
same.
already
This
there in
lectures
the
only.
list.
It is there
That
in the
comes
list.
on 2nd September or 3rd September.
Okay.
2nd
Okay.
September it comes.
Yeah.
Sister Najima and Vahida Taj will be handled. Both are principals of primary school. Both are trainers in early child education. We will address it. Sister Dr. Nega Rumaiza, you can add more point to the question, sister.
Yeah, that's what, sir. We have a separate session already. It is time. So I think
Okay.
we should end the session.
Well,
We'll now, yeah, we'll have the, yeah.
Yeah,
vote
we
of
will
thanks.
invite the vote of thanks, madam. It is now already 5 o'clock now. Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
We will wind up the session.
Yes, sir.
Now I request our Shehnawaz, Professor Shehnawaz Khan Sahab of Uttar Pradesh. He is the secretary of AMP there. Now invite him to address the audience with vote of thanks. Welcome, sir.
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum. First of all, I'm thankful to AMP, Tamil Nadu and OMIAT for organizing this program for educators and making it free, of course, for educators. Jazakallah khair. On behalf of OMIAT and AMP, I would like to say thank you, Dr. Neha Rumesa, for giving us your precious time and for such an informative session on KYS, that is know your student, and a very simple way. Jazakallah khair, OMIAT President Janab Khalilullah Sahab, General Secretary Janab Ahmad Miran Sahab, and AMP Head Tamil Nadu, Dr. Pesh Imam Nazir Ahmad Sahab, for your continuous support and hard work behind this program. And at the end, to all the educators, thank you for joining us today. And in spite of your hectic schedule, this is showing how passionate you are. Alhamdulillah. We expect your presence in the coming sessions, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah. Inshallah,
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi.
inshallah, we will meet again for the next session on 26th at the same time by 3 o'clock. Welcome you all. Thank you. Subhanallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Azhar sir.
we can end the session. Fazal, 1 minute.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
நீங்க இந்த PPT அந்த ரிசோர்ஸ் ப்ளேஸ்மெண்ட் வாங்கி குரூப்ல ஷேர் பண்ணுங்க.
Okay, sir. Inshallah.
மேடம் சொல்லி ஃபாலோ. Okay, we can end the session.
रामचंद्र कर